Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Zombicide unboxing. This is for some more classic Zombicide. This is actually for the Infected pack, which is the Season 3 Kickstarter Stretch Goals. So Season 3 was Rue Morgue and Angry Neighbors. So what this is going to add for us is we're going to get a bunch of extra zombies that are from both of those sets. So we're going to get some of the stingers from Rue Morgue. We're going to get some seekers from Angry Neighbors, but we're also going to get some extra ones from some of the other packs. We're going to get some VIP zombies, some crows, which is really cool. Then we're also going to get 9 new survivors. And there's Zombivor versions, so that's pretty cool in there. This is how the old boxes used to come. So, 2 things I want to mention with this right off the back is, first of all, the survivors do not come with ID cards. So, if you pick this up, because of the way they shipped all the cards, and all the cards are the big long cards in the Classic, they shipped them all separately. So, they do not come inside this box. This box is actually empty right now. It just has the tray for all the miniatures. So, yeah, if you pick this up to play with them, either with your other classic stuff or you want to play with them in modern, you'll have to pick up the reboot pack. Secondly, to go with that, is there is not enough zombies of these types to just play the game. So if you bought the reboot pack, which has all the new updated spawn cards that go with the 2.0 rules, and look, there is not enough of these to actually play that. With the exception of the VIPs could technically these. Now, you could add these in, definitely. Have them in with the, if you don't own the base games, or the regular games that have all the extra zombies. You could add these in if you have the reboot cards. Just what'll end up happening is, if it says spawn 5 or 6 of these, you might have enough to do that once. And then if another one of them cards came up, you just have to discard it and draw something else if you didn't have enough, or spawn as many as you could. These are just meant to have extras of each. But you don't have enough to play a full game with all of these, for the most part. Alright, so first thing we want to look at is these tiles that are not included in the game. But I want to bring them out for our first thing we have. We get 2 barricades. Now, there was a way to buy these as optional items as well, and get bigger packs and more. The game Angry Neighbors comes with 8 tiles for these, and this is what one of the tiles looks like. So we have incomplete and then a complete one. So it's odd that it gave us 2 extra ones, I guess, which is fine if you bought the pack, which had more. But I think the pack only had 4, so it's weird that they had a pack with 4 when the base game comes with 8 tiles. Maybe they just don't expect people to generally build all of them. But the way these basically work is, if you are playing, you can put them down. You can build these throughout the game. Spend 3 points to put down the incomplete one. Then you put a complete one down, and it puts barricades on there, which blocks zombies from coming through the street. Also blocks your guys. You can put them in front of doorways. Now, there are certain times, unless you have certain rules or you're playing kind of your own game, you're only supposed to be able to build them in certain spots listed on the map. Otherwise, there's one of the companions from Angry Neighbors that lets you build them anywhere. Yeah, so only 2 of them aren't going to do you a ton of good, but they're still definitely neat to have. Although it might, with the exception of getting multiple survivors, this may be a reason to maybe pick up a second infected pack to get 2 more of them. But again, I don't know if 4 will be enough. It might be enough for most scenarios as long as you're not playing with the companion that lets you build more anywhere. I think that's kind of where you need extra. So that's pretty cool. We get 2 of those. So I just want to show those off really quick. I'll toss these tiles back down to the side. Then we're going to look at a bunch of zombies. Alright, let's start with crows. So crows do come in their own box. You can buy as well. As one of the box of zombies. This comes with 5 sets of crows. So there's actually 6 on the miniature, but you have 5 of these. Crows have a couple of different special rules. One, they get 3 actions per turn. So your walkers Your walkers, your brutes, and your abominations all have 1 action per turn. Your runner gets 2, so after everyone's activated once, the runner goes a second time. The birds get to go a third time after that. They still only have 1 hit point. They do 1 damage like anything else. But they also get to ignore any obstacles in the way. So they can fly over fences. Like you just saw in there, we had the barbed wire fence on that one board. They can fly over those barricades. If there's any other hazards in the way, like Angry Neighbors has traps, holes, they fly over the holes. Toxic City Mall added rubble, which stops zombies. They fly over those. The only one I didn't agree with is they fly over closed doors, because presumably these buildings have roofs on them. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. They can get through closed doors. But I do like, yeah, they can get through all the other stuff. So you get 5 of these, which again, I don't think it's going to be enough unless unless the spawn cards only spawn 1 at a time. But if they ever spawn 2 or 3, you might not have enough. Cool. So then the next ones we're going to look at are the VIPs. So these also come in a separate set you can pick up. This is actually part of VIP pack number 2, which are 5 special zombies called Very Infected Plague, I think it is, VIP. So these are just more unique walkers. Because usually our typical walkers are either just guys in street clothes or women in dress, or if you get some of the themed ones, you get maybe some like prison guards or security workers or stuff like that. So we have some just special models here. So you have a police officer. Now this set does not come with the cards for them, but they do have special cards you also get in the reboot pack as well, or in the VIP pack if you get that for classic, that lets you summon these guys specially. But they do have another special rule. Is when you defeat a VIP, you actually put that miniature on your player card, your ID card, or over by your board. And once you defeat 5 different ones, you get to turn them in for a pimp weapon, or one of the rarer weapons in the game if you're playing 2.0. So it's a really neat little idea. It's like if you defeat these specific 5 ones, but they're only going to appear like every so often, but you might end up randomly grabbing some. I think the actual box comes with, I think, 3 or 4 of each. This comes with 2 of each different one of these models. We get 2 of the cops, we get 2 of the mall Santas. We're going to get 2 of this punk guy. So there is enough that you can actually play around if you use this rule. You could just have them spawn as regular zombies, and you could just be like, hey, if you get these special guys and you defeat them, then you get to draw a special weapon. But you have to have 5 different ones. And since there are only 5 in each of the VIP packs, that means you get 1 of each. VIP has 5 different guys. If these guys have 5 different ones as well. So if you buy both, you get 10. But you have a construction worker. And it's neat. Even if you don't play with that special rule, you just get some alternate models of guys that could come out. We also get a sailor. So yeah, it's really fun though. You get so we get 5 different sculpts, but 10 new zombies. Additionally to that, there was 2 that are exclusive to this pack. This is the only way you could get these 2, is you get 3 copies of each. Is we get the cosplayer Slave Leia outfit from Star Wars. So yeah, these, you get 3 of her, but they're exclusive to the Infected pack. So if you want these, you have to pick up this box set. The other exclusive one we get is our Elvis impersonator. Oh, Hunga Burning Brains. Yeah, so that's really cool. So we got, so it's definitely like everything else in here outside of Survivors, all the zombies are available in other packs. These 2 are exclusive. You get 3 copies of each. Next thing we want to look at is from Angry Neighbors expansion. We have a new type of zombie that are clad in black. These are called the Seekers. Seekers, for all intents and purposes, are walkers. They work just like any other walker, priorities, targeting, all that stuff. What they do is when you summon them, if you draw a card for a Seeker, you place one, like normal. But anytime you place one, if there are any other previous Seekers on the board, you get, these guys get an extra activation. So the first one, he just comes out like normal. You draw a second Seeker card. If there are any other Seekers on the board, that other one now gets an extra activation. Which is really fun because it makes them kind of hard. A little bit charging type guys. And I believe we got... Oh, I knocked all my stuff down. I believe you get 3 of each of these guys. Or sorry, I think you get 2 of each of these guys. So you get a couple extras. Again, not really enough for just your regular. They could definitely integrate in. But yeah, we get some new characters here to play as well. Just some extras, so you have some more for your game to make your hordes harder. Then the other new type we got in Rue Morgue are called Stingers. So these guys are in yellow. Stingers have a very special rule. They are treated as walkers, runners, brutes. And these yellow guys don't like focus very well. Or abominations. Alright, I gotta try and figure out. The yellow guys don't like sometimes focus, bro. So the Stingers have a very special rule. It's anytime you defeat a Stinger zombie, every time you rolled a 1 during your attack, they spawn a crawler. So if there's, let's say there's 3 Stingers in your zone, and you, let's say there's 1 Stinger in the zone, right? And you roll 3 dice, and you roll a single 1. Now he becomes a crawler. If there were 3 Stingers in the zone and you defeated 2 of them with your dice, you rolled enough dice, but you only rolled a 1, so it's like a 5, a 6, and a 1. Even though you defeated 2 of them, only 1 would become a crawler. So it's each one defeated only becomes a crawler for each 1 you rolled. So if you only roll 1, you could defeat 10 of them. It wouldn't matter. You'd only get 1 number 1. Although conversely is the same way as if you roll 4 dice and you take out 1 guy and you have 3 1s, it's still only 1. So each Stinger can only produce 1. So we had a guy there in a shirt. We have a lady here in just like an overcoat. Yes, this is really always a fun new mechanic. We'll look at the crawlers in just a moment. Yeah, otherwise, all the other guys spawn and they work as their same exact selves. Like, these guys work, they get extra activations, they can become toxic. All that stuff stays the same. We get, I believe we have 2 of each of these guys. So, again, not a ton, because there's a bunch in the Rue Morgue base set. So, she's in a big old, like, winter parka, which I really like. We get 5 different walkers. Again, this is more just to enhance it. These are just the stretch goals for the campaign. They're not meant to be an expansion pack. But yeah, even if you don't want to play it that special rule, you can always just opt to play these guys as regular walkers, runners, and stuff, and you just got some different sculpts. So here's this runner. Shirt's ripping off, hair in the wind. We got the other one, which looks like that. It's coat's blowing. I do like the 2 new designs though. Like we got some guys, and when you defeat them, they might keep coming alive, and we have other guys that are the Seekers, which are going to be more proactive. So here is our brute, or fatty as they call them. He's got like crap sticking out of him left and right. He's had a rough go of it. Alright, so before we look at the abominations, let's look at our crawlers. So when crawlers are on the board, they work like anything else. They have 1 activation, they have 1 movement. The only big difference is they are at the lowest priority. So everything else can get defeated before them because they're so far on the ground. The idea is they're gonna catch up. So like, where normally it's walkers, walkers, then like brutes and abominations are closer. You hit them guys first because they're bigger and slower, and the runners come later. These guys actually come last. So it's kind of neat because like you defeat a walker, which is your first thing you can target. Now you have one that you have to deal with last. So you guys can crawl over after abominations. Yeah, they're very interesting mechanic. And you could opt to even play these guys with any other zombie if you wanted. You could just keep the same rules, right? You could, instead of just being stingers, you could have them be if you defeat any zombie and you roll a 1, they become these guys. So if you have some extras of these guys sitting around, that's definitely an alternate thing. And we get 5 different models of these. Some of these guys are missing legs, which is why they're crawling. And we got some ladies there as well. If you ever played zombie games, the crawling guys are usually the worst because they're like, all of a sudden you're like, oh no, where they come from? You didn't see them. So those are the 5 different crawler stingers. So that's, yeah, really neat extra game mechanic. Then the last 2 zombies we have are the A-bomb miniatures. So these guys work a little bit differently. They're yellow like the stingers, but they actually don't follow the I don't believe they follow the stinger rule. This is the exclusive sculpt for the box. This is the female version. But the A-bombs have 2 special effects. 1, they're impervious. You cannot kill them except with a Molotov cocktail. So this is going to make them really hard to defeat. Again, bulbous, giant spikes. I love that arm. That's really cool. And then they also, at the end of their activation, they grab any survivor in a space next to them and drag them into their space. Now, they've already activated, so they don't attack them, but it means now you have to try and get away from their zone. So, yeah, usually you can leave, like, one zone away from a guy. They'll activate, move one space toward you. You can kind of just stay one space away. Not so with these guys. So, here's the one that's going to be in the Rue Morgue box. The other one, which is the female version, is, again, exclusive to the infected box. So, it's this lady and our two cosplayer guys. They are 100% exclusive zombies to the box. Then, of course, we also have all the exclusive survivors, which we are going to go ahead and jump into right now. I'm just going to move my zombies out of the way so we can set up our board. Here we go. Now, as I said before, I do not have the original play styles for these guys, so I'm going to use the 2.0 cards. For the most part, the information is exactly the same. There is a couple of times when that is not true, and I will point them out as we come across those. So here we're going to start with Bastion. So we're going to set him off to the side. Let's look at his miniature quick. Of course, all the old classic ones all come in single colors. So just double wheels and double axes here. Oh, I'm actually sorry. We are looking at the Zombicide version, which has the double axes. We'll grab the regular one here. I was like, why does this pose look different? There's the regular one. It says double oozes. I like when they change weapons because it's kind of fun. Alright, so we have Bastion. So this is based off of, like, most Zombicide Kickstarter Stretch Goals stuff. They're based off of some homage to a character. This is Derek Zoolander from the movie Zoolander, played by Ben Stiller. So he has, let's go through all his abilities here. He starts with matching set. which I like to read what these are, but I like to find the exact text because I don't always remember what they do. So many games, so many rules. Maxing set. Survivor performs a search action and draws a weapon with the dual symbol. He can immediately take the second card of the same type from the equipment deck. So basically, he can automatically get some dual weapons right off the bat, which is pretty cool. In yellow, we always have +1 action. For orange, +1 die for combat or 1 free combat action. In yellow, +1 die for combat, +1 free combat action, or +1 die roll or dice roll for combat. +1 to the dice roll. So basically, he's going to try and just dual weapons and then just jump in and do combat. But it's nice because it's combat, he can do ranged or melee, so it's ever you end up getting. Then we flip over, we have the Zombicide version, the Zomviber. So if you're not familiar with these rules, just a quick rundown is, if your survivor dies, you can bring them back as a Zomviber. They switch over to this, they get to reapply all their stats, you can switch to different yellows and reds, because they do change. They have 5 hit points. Otherwise, other than that, they play exactly like any other zombie. Another thing that did come up was in the Lost Zombiver box for set 7, and with the reboot pack, they have Lost cards. So Lost Zombiver cards. Spawn cards, which lets you take the zombified characters and actually have them spawn as enemies, which become enemy walkers with 5 hit points. But if you defeat them, you get a weapon. So it's kind of a neat way to, like, if you don't want to play with these guys as zombies, you can, and you have those cards, the spawn cards, you can play these guys summon. If you really want to just add them in as regular guys, you could do that as well. Like, hey, if it says summon one guy, summon one of these guys instead to make the game a little bit harder. Or you can play as them. You can also start the game as these guys. Alright, so the other big difference here is their yellow still. So Bastion here starts with matching set, but in yellow, they lose their free action to do whatever they want, and it becomes a specified one. So it does make them a little bit slower, because they don't gain the extra move or extra search, or be able to do what they want. They're stuck doing a specific type of thing. It's still a free action, but it's limited on what they can do. So yeah, he said goes from combat stuff to just melee action. In orange, he has +1 die for combat and tough. Tough lets him avoid the first point of damage he would take. In red, he has +1 die for combat, +1 dice roll for combat, and regeneration. Generation says at the end of the round, discard all the wounds, or in this case, heal all the wounds. It doesn't work if they've been eliminated. So that means if he has 5 hit points, if he takes more than 5 hit points, he's going to lose. But it does let him heal back up at the end of the round. The original classic, you had wound cards, so it worked a little bit differently. Now, there is one difference on his versus the original. So the original, I have these on my phone. He has Death Grip instead of Tough, or Death Grasp. So what Death Grasp is because the way damage worked is you actually took a card that says wound and you put it in your inventory, and it replaced an equipment card. So the idea is a zombie hit you hard enough that you took damage, but you dropped one of your items. So their Death Grasp let you keep that item no matter what, and that helps him with that matching set. This one, they just got rid of it and made him take less damage, because you don't swap out weapons when you take damage. So that's pretty cool there. Alright, let's go to our next survivor. We have Cat. Now, Cat is interesting, so Cat is based off of, let me grab my little checklist here. So this is supposed to be Daisy Duke from the Dukes of Hazzard. Now, either played by Catherine Bach, who is the original Daisy, or Jessica Simpson, who's the updated one from the newer movies. I think it's probably maybe aimed more at the original because she has darker hair, where the Jessica Simpson version has, the Catherine Bach version is brown hair, where the Jessica Simpson has a dirty dirty blonde hair. But sometimes when they do these stretch goal characters, they have information in them, and one might have maybe leaned more, had a quote or a line in there that leaned it more towards that. I just go by what other people have. All right. So she has, of course, she's in pink. She's a girl. Why wouldn't you have her in pink? There it is. She's just hanging out in her little top there, her little Daisy Duke shorts, and she has a big giant gun. Let's just jump in and look at the Zombicide version quick too. So there's her Zombicide version, where she drops her gun and she just goes feral. If it wants to focus. I don't know why we're having such trouble focusing on it. I think sometimes the white colors. There we go. I'm not gonna probably get any better than that right now. But yeah. She just drops her weapons and she gets that like primal scream going. So, I mean, that's just these white colors that don't want to work. Alright, so what does she do for us? She has one free move action. She's going to get a round. Then in yellow, there's one action. In orange, +1 die for combat or 1 free melee action. In red, 1 free combat action. +1 zone per move, and slippery. So she's gonna be able to get around, is her whole thing. And you kind of got some good combat stuff in there. Slippery is going to let you move out of zone with zombies without paying the additional penalty. So that's helpful there if you want. Or if you need to get around quicker, have her give the move action. Then if we flip her to her other side, she keeps her 1 free move action. In yellow, now it becomes a free melee action. In orange, she has +1 die for combat. Hit and run. Hit and run means anytime you defeat a zombie, at least one zombie, you get a free move action. If you can use to either kill the last zombie and start moving to the next one, kill a zombie in there and let you get out and try and escape because you're not going to finish off the rest of them. Gives you some options. In red, +1 zone per move. Slippery and Zombie Link. Zombie Link means anytime you draw a card that says extra activation for a zombie, she gets an additional turn before the zombies. This will let you maybe take out some of them other zombies before they get the extra activation, or possibly just give you the chance to flee and get away. Like, hey, I can't take out that many extra zombies. Let me try and run away quick before they can catch me. Could be really good. Plus, the fact that she has zombie link plus hit and run, she can usually like sit there and smack a few and then run away. If they're already in her zone, smack them and then run away and then have some extra moves as well. Now, she does have some changes in her classic mode or classic card. So in orange, she has 1 free dog action. So instead of her free combat action, she gains 1, or instead of a free die, she gains a free dodge action. So they took this out for, I think, 2 reasons. One is because there is no dogs in 2.0 as of yet. They might add them in later, and that's what some of these skills got removed for. I think also just because of the fact that it's a very limited skill. It makes her so she can only work if you're playing with the dog expansion. So I think that's the other reason why they got rid of it. But I think the main one is because the 2.0 cards, they did it because there was no dogs in 2.0. So unless you owned the dog pack and bought the reboot pack that had those characters, the dogs in there, her ability wouldn't be as useful. So they tried to just fix that up. Then on the other side, she also had a couple differences there. So in orange, she again kept her free dodge action. And then she also had Rotten, which Rotten meant is as long as she did not make a combat action attack, any type of a range or melee attack, or make a noise, or an action that made a noise, such as opening a door, She put a token on her, gives her the rotten status, which means now people treat her as a zombie. So zombies will walk right by her, ignore her, won't attack her. But anytime she made a noise token, that went away. It's an interesting ability, but I think they kind of went away with it 2.0 because it meant you could still move, you could still search, but you couldn't do lots of the other actions, so it kind of like stopped your turn to let zombies walk by you. And then the thing is, like, if it's a bunch of walkers, it might take 2 or 3 turns for them to get by you, and that means you're not doing anything for maybe 2 or 3 turns. Or at least 2 turns. I think they're just trying to find a way to, like, keep the game moving. Which is why I think they switched it to hit and run. They'd rather have you take out a zombie and move past them, take out at least one zombie and move past them, as opposed to not doing any attacking for 2 rounds. And then what the free dog action was is just dogs work as companions. And you spend your actions to give them things to do. They might be able to search or do an attack. This just gave her a free action specifically for that. So yeah, it's, you know, kind of like a free move, but only for using it on dogs. Alright, our third guy, let's keep moving. I'm kind of running some tangents here. We have Seth. Seth is, of course, Brian Miller from Taken, or Liam Neeson. So there's his miniature. Kind of like a military green. Definitely looks like Liam Neeson. Got his gun down ready. I have a specific set of rules. I have a set of skills that I have acquired over a period of time. And then that's the cool. And then there's his zombie one. I love how when he becomes a zombie, though. So like his standard one, he's kind of all like calm and collected. His zombie, he's just like, nope. You have now killed me. I came back pissed off. I feel like if they made another Kickstarter Zombicide, like for 2.0, I'm pretty sure you would have Keanu Reeves in it as John Wick. If he wasn't already in there, he might have been. I might have just forgot. So what does Seth have here? Seth has hit and run right off the bat. In orange, 1 free melee action. In orange, he also has steady hand. Steady hand says you can choose to ignore other survivors of his choice when using a ranged attack or driving a car through a zone. Does not apply when using something like a Molotov, though. So he can choose to shoot around anybody else. He doesn't have to accidentally shoot a survivor. In red, +1 die roll for combat, Lifesaver, and Reaper combat. For Lifesaver, means he can choose a zone adjacent to him that has at least a zombie and a survivor in it. He can pull all survivors out of that zone to him. Makes sense for his taking role. And then Reaper combat says whenever he assigns hits, resolves assigning hits for combat, he can freely kill 1 additional zombie of an identical type. So if he takes out a walker, he can take out another walker. If he takes out a runner, he can take out an additional runner. So it just lets you take out multiple guys a lot quicker. Yeah, so it says, like, you take out, like, the brute size, and for some reason, if you take out an abomination, you have enough power to do that, take out an additional one. So that's pretty cool there. If we flip him over, he keeps his hit and run. In yellow, now it just becomes a ranged action. In red, orange, he has Bloodlust melee and steady hand. For Bloodlust means spend 1 action to move up to 2 zones containing at least 1 zombie, and then you gain a free melee action. So you're combining your point to do a move and attacks. You have to move to a zone, but you get a free attack. So you get a little bit farther movement, but you have to attack someone. Not bad though if you're going to be trying to attack anyhow. In red, +1 die roll for combat, Reaper combat, and Super Strength. Super Strength turns your base damage into 3. For all your... Is it just for melee weapons? Yeah, melee weapons become 3. So yeah, if he changes kind of being a ranged character and you move him into a melee character, he can do some significant damage. Now he does have an additional change in here. So on his old cards in blue for both sides, he had helicopter pilot. This worked with the Rue Morgue set, which added the helicopter, which was not in 2.0, which is again why they took this skill out. But what that did was that allowed him to if you had someone had to have helicopter pilot still to be able to fly the helicopter. So if you didn't, so there's 12 characters in Rue Morgue, 3 of them had them. 3, so you had to have one of those 3 characters to be able to fly the helicopter. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to use the helicopter in that game. But then not every single tile always had that. So that's definitely cool there. All right, our 4th survivor is Spencer. So this is Walter White from Breaking Bad, or Bryan Cranston. Again, kind of like the Liam Neeson one there we just had with Seth. He was all calm and collective in his survivor form. Are we going to have another issue with this guy being yellow? There he is. This guy's, brown suit is like trademark hat he's familiar with. Double guns, just ready to take everyone out. Then, what's actually very interesting is, I don't know if this has happened in any other miniature that I can think of. His Zombicide actually gets a completely different outfit. Usually they just have him in a different form, but he switches to his like a hazmat outfit. And I can't honestly think of any other zombie form where he gets a completely different outfit. But yeah, there he is. An axe now instead. He's got his like protection mask, his hazard mask up on the top. He got his hazard suit. So that's pretty cool. Like, actually got a completely different miniature for that. Alright, so he gets 1 free ranged action. In orange, he has 2 cocktails are better than 1. So per classic rules, which are a little bit different than standard rules, 2 cocktails means whenever he creates a Molotov, he gets 2 of them. Because in classic, you had to combine gasoline and a bottle to create a Molotov. So he gets an additional one. In 2.0 rules, it means whenever you use a Molotov, you roll a die, and I believe it's on 5 or 6, you get to keep the Molotov. So one of them, I don't know if one's better than the other, because the 2.0 means you could, if you keep rolling really well, you could infinitely have more cocktails, because you always throw the next one, roll, keep it, throw it. But the idea of the classic one, where every time you get one, basically you get an additional one, means that all of a sudden now you always have 2 cocktails sitting around ready to go, with no any risk at all. So it kind of makes it like, hey, if I can have him, so if we're gonna make one, have him make it. Then he has Zombie Link, so again, he gets free action. In red, +1 free combat action, +1 max range, which is really nice, and +1 to dice roll for combat. On his Zombivor side, he keeps his free ranged attack. He gets an additional free ranged attack, Bloodlust for combat, and Zombie Link. In red, +1 max range, +1 dice roll for combat, and tough. So he gets to avoid some extra damage. Now, his classic does have a little bit of change in there. So instead of tough, in his red, they gave him the toxic, he gave him toxic immunity instead, which toxic immunity means that if you're playing with the Toxic City Mall or the toxic zombies, which are green, he gets to not worry about taking damage from them. Those are, if you defeat them, they do a toxic blood splatter, and they do 1 damage to anyone in the zone, plus turning other zombies into toxic zombies. He gets to avoid that, so it makes him a lot easier to deal with. So, I mean, he can run right up and go ahead and attack all them guys. It's not a big deal for him. But they got rid of it again, because like all the other things, there is no toxic zombies in 2.0, so if you didn't have them or you opted not to play with them, then basically you're giving a guy a skill he can't use. They tried to remove stuff that was specific towards like those situations. So that way you weren't stuck not being able to use stuff. Alright, our next survivor is good old Doc. So this is Gregory House from the medical show House or Hugh Laurie. So he's walking, I like he's walking on his baseball bat, because normally he'd have his cane. So instead, he's just carrying a baseball bat. Yeah, these lighter colors don't want to zoom very well, or focus very well. My miniature has a Michael Jackson moonwalk lean. Not moonwalk, but, thriller lean to him. So I have to probably try to figure out how to, prop him back up without making sure I don't break his feet off. If we flip to his other side and we look at his Zombicide side, his jacket gets already, but he's still carrying his baseball bat. Also interesting because there's a backside pose. Usually it's always the pose it would be from the front. Yeah, there's carrying the baseball bat again because zombies become a little bit more aggressive. It has a little bit of a lean to him, but not. I think that one's on purpose. But yeah, let's look at what Doc does for us. Good old Doc. He starts with Medic, which lets you, at the end of your turn, you can heal another survivor or yourself 1 point. So that's always a great thing to have. +1 die roll for melee or Reaper melee. So he's going to be a melee guy. Medic guy with melee. +1 damage for melees, 1 free combat action, or a roll of 6 +1 die for melee. It's really neat because they want him to be up and be a melee character, but because he also has medic, he can stick him with somebody else. Either he can keep healing himself, or he can keep healing somebody else. And keep your team alive, but keep them up on the front lines. On his Zombicide side, he keeps his medic, but his yellow becomes 1 free melee action. +1 die roll for melee. In orange, he gains Barbarian. Barbarian means that when you roll dice to attack, you roll for the number of actors in the zone. Zombies, survivors, whatever it is. You get that many dice. So if you have a baseball bat that rolls 2 dice, but there are 5 zombies, you now get to roll 5 dice instead. And then red, +1 damage for melee. Roll a 6 +1 die for melee or Zombie Link. Very cool. He kind of keeps his stuff. He just becomes a lot more aggressive. Not a little bit, a lot more aggressive. Alright, up next we have Jesse. With a fry pan there. So this is Gordon Ramsay. So imagine Gordon Ramsay yelling at zombies, right? Yelling at his team. Okay, come on. Yeah, it's these lighter colored characters do not like to focus. So there he is in his chef's outfit. I like that his pan is kind of dented, like because he's definitely been using it. But yeah, that's pretty cool. That they did that. And then if we look at his other side, he switches over from a pan. He's going melee. He grabbed a butcher's knife and a big old carving knife. Plus his shirt becomes unfurled a little bit. His apron, smock. But yeah, them kind of standing around poses to the aggressive poses. I think were really cool. Alright, so what does Jesse have? So Jesse, of course, is going to have Born Leader, which means he can give an extra action to another survivor, which they have to use by the end of their turn. So just helping everyone get to move around a lot more. Move around, do actions, do whatever they need to do. +1 die roll for melee and Swordmaster. Swordmaster means he can treat all melee weapons as if they had the dual symbol. So he's an expert in melee weapons, of course. In red, 1 free melee action, +1 die roll for melee, or +1 dice roll for melee. +1 to die roll. So yeah, so we had kind of where Doc there was the medic, and he's going to be right up in the middle of things doing melee with everybody else. Jesse's going to be doing the same thing, but he's going to be Also giving actions to other people. If you team those two up, they could run around and do some damage because they both do a ton of melee damage, depending on their weapons. But the fact is, Jesse could keep giving extra actions to give him an extra medical action. I think though you can only use medic once at the end of the turn, so it's not like you can give it to him multiple times. But you could be giving each other extra actions to do stuff, which would be cool. Alright, on the other side we have Born Leader, 1 free melee action, +1 damage for melee, and Sword Master. +1 damage is always very helpful. 1 die for melee, +1 dice roll to melee, or Zombie Link. So yeah, just be a giant beat stick. Alright, let's hop into our next guy. Oddly enough, out of these guys, we only have 1 female. But here we have Kabir, who, Kabir is Rajesh Kuthrapali from The Big Bang Theory, played by, Kular Nayar. I definitely make sure I read that, make sure I read it right. So yeah, he gets a saber, which is I think works because he's Indian, so it kind of gives him a, like, real thing. But others, he's just hanging out there, hand in his pocket. That's the only thing that's weird, because like, they try and do the survivor part based on, like, a picture. So, like, lots of them they're not holding weapons in those pictures. And then they have someone try and redraw that character a little bit more, angry and aggressive. So there we get him more wielding that saber. He's like, alright. You have, scoffed my luck. Scoffed my luck. That, I don't know what that phrase is. Alright, what does Kabar have? He starts with Slippery, so he gets to move around, without having to worry about, paying extra actions. In orange, 1 free move action or +1 die roll for melee. In red, +1 die for combat, 1 free combat action or Reaper combat. So he's going to start off the game kind of be able to move around, get him where he needs to be, and they can finish it up with some good solid combat. So it's kind of like he's going to sneak around where he wants to go, and then boom, running and do some bashing when he needs to. On the other side, we have Slippery, 1 free melee action, +1 die roll for melee, Bloodlust melee, +1 die rate for combat, Barbarian, and Reaper combat. Also interesting to know is a lot of these guys are melee characters. Melee. Yeah, two range guys, but lots of these guys have been melee, so very interesting. Yeah, not too much different to say. Again, he's just a lot of melee stuff in there. I think part of him is just because they're doing the Big Bang Theory set of characters in this, so that's why he got added in there. Nothing against him per se. Just again, they didn't have like taking off a special movie thing like the action stars or movie characters. Sometimes get stuff that kind of lean into their roles. But yeah, he just gets that. So this is Lucius, who is Leon from The Professional, played by Jean Reno. So there he is with his plant. Although, looks like they gave him a stocking hat in this picture versus his hair. Very interesting. Yeah, again, just kind of just hanging out. I do like the big coat. Be an interesting thing to paint eventually. And then if we go towards the other side, it becomes a zombie. His coat kind of flies open. He's kind of being more proactive. So we actually get him. We get him in like a running pose. This would be the only way to be kind of confusing because it's like now if you're playing with these guys and you add them in, you have to make sure you know that he's not a runner. But cool. Alright, so what does Lucius do for us? Looks like we're going to get a little bit of everything. He starts with +1 die roll, his dice roll for ranged attacks. In orange, +1 free ranged action. Or it's +1 die roll for melee. So you can either stick with the extra on range, or you can go up to melee. In red, +1 die for combat, 1 free combat action, or Reaper combat. So at the end, you pick what you want. Do you want him to be ranged? Do you want him to switching to melee? At the end, you can kind of do either. So he does a little jack of all trades there. In his Zombicide form, he has +1 dice roll for range, 1 free ranged action. So pushes on that range a little bit more early on. In orange, +1 die roll for melee, and then hit and run. In red, +1 die for combat, Reaper combat, and Zombie Link. So very cool. None of these guys have anything like super crazy. They're very solid characters though. Alright, our last survivor and our last card for the set is Yuri. So Yuri is Jack Bauer from the TV show 24, played by Kiefer Sutherland. So he starts with Distributor. Distributor has a really fun ability. So what it does is when the spawn time comes around, you find how many spawn points there are. You draw that many cards, and you get to put them in those spawn zones. So if there's 4 active spawn zones, you draw 4 spawn cards. Now you get to pick where each spawn card goes. So that means if there's one that summons 8 walkers, and one that summons 2 runners, and then one that summons an abomination, and the other one summons 2 walkers, you could choose to put the 8 walkers across the board away from you. Maybe put the abomination the next one away. Put the runners the third way, and put the 2 walkers next to you. Or depending on what you have ready to go, if you know that, hey, we have a guy with a Molotov right away, let's Molotov the abomination now while we have access to him. Or you can put we can take out the runners very easily, put them really close. Or you have someone that has Dreadnought where they're not going to take damage from walkers. Maybe spawn the 8 walkers next to them. It just gives you a neat way to play around with what you're doing. In orange, we have 1 free range action and Steady Hand. In red, 1 free combat action, +1 die roll for range, and Tactician. So he also gains Tactician, which is very good. He's always in control. So the survivor can resolve their action during the player phase before or after any survivor. So now he can actually, if you get that, he can choose when he goes. You need him to go first because he can go ahead and shoot a bunch of guys, take out some stuff at ranged action, and free up the space for the other guys to do something. Was he supposed to go third? But maybe you want him to go last now, because then you can be like, wait, he can go last and finish cleaning up after everybody. Or he was supposed to go first and you can move him to the end. Yeah, lots of different options there. I realized we didn't look at his miniature yet. Usually I've been doing that right away, but we just kind of stick over him. So yeah, he's got his tactical vest and his planning out what's going on. Yeah, so it definitely feels a little bit more thematic than some of the other guys where just kind of like they're doing running and shooting actions. Then he gets his other side there, which he has more of a badass pose. Would have been kind of neat if he almost lost the bulletproof vest, or if it was hanging off or something. I don't know how that would have looked, but my thought. Alright, so his Zombicide version, he has Distributor as well, +1 free range action. He gains Point Blank, which we have not seen yet. When fired at range of 0, Survivor freely chooses targets. So it basically turns your range 0 actions into like melee actions. Now you can choose who you're going to target instead. Steady Hand, in red, he has +1 die roll for range, Reaper, range, and Tactician. So it becomes pretty badass. We do have one change from the original version. He had Fast Roping. So Fast Roping was another helicopter skill, which meant while the helicopter was moving, he could get out of the helicopter at any point, as opposed to having to wait for it to land. So if you're playing with these guys, it's kind of neat, because if it was the stretch goals for Rue Morgue, which again had the helicopter and 3 characters with fast roping, 3 with helicopter. And you got these stretch goals, it gave you a 4th character for each of them to give you another option to switch into them. So that's really cool. They did actually have some characters did that. Again, they got rid of it for 2.0. So it'd be interesting to see if 2.0 actually ends up re-releasing some of this stuff like the dogs or the helicopters, and how they decide to maybe add those abilities back into these characters. I don't know if they'll reprint cards for all of them. That'd definitely be cool. I mean, they, like, for Black Plague and stuff, or like when I was doing White Death for the fantasy, they updated some of those rules to kind of the 2.0 rules, so they're reprinting a bunch of the older cards for that. So definitely it'd be neat if they did a 3rd season of or a 2nd set of Zombicide 2.0. If they fix some of these old cards, if they add the helicopters or the dog companions, that'd be kind of cool for those. Alright, that is what we have for our infected box of Zombicide. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have questions, comments, hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. See you guys later. Bye.